This meeting is being recorded by the host or a participant.
By the host. So welcome everybody to our Read What You Want book club. What have you all been reading? Who wants to start?
I will.
Hit us, Carol.
Okay, only because I have to leave early, about 11:30.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Okay, so I read Spare, and I loved it.
Stare? Oh, Spare.
Spare, Prince Harry.
Oh, you took you stole my thunder, Carol.
Well, then I won't say much. I'll let you. I was so impressed with what he's done in his life, and that his brother, the wimp, who is scheduled to be king, knows nothing about the outside world. Harry was in the army, he was in the navy, he was in Afghanistan. One of the press, he asked him if he killed people, and he said yes, and they said 25. He never said that number, and they just blew up everything. And he talked about Camilla, and the book was a lot. He missed his mother so much. He couldn't get over that. He thought she would come back. And then he talked about Meghan, and he couldn't believe the press, how racist they were. But what he did bring out is there was some kind of agreement between the royals and the British press that they could write about them. But they've gotten away with so much. And the wimp, King Charles, but I choke when I say King Charles, because he doesn't deserve it. Okay, but it's apparently now, lately, they say he's sick. He has high blood pressure, and he's gained weight. And anyway, William's really upset. This is now, but I would go back. He never put his foot down. He never spoke to the press and said, it's enough. You're going overboard with how they were treating Meghan. And what he brought out too was they hired, okay, and I want to stay off Facebook, but I get all these things from the British press. Why aren't you going after the royals to see how much money they spent to make that old dog Camilla look good? And they hired somebody for a press to make her look good. So they were always saying what she was doing and going and whatever, and they're all vying for good press from the press to make. So that's why the press ganged up on Harry to make her look good. Anyway, it's an eye-opener. It really is. And he sees the whole world better than his brother and his father, and they're
differently all, anyway.
Yeah, and it is a company. It's like a firm. They're all, and it's all white waspy men. It's just really sad. So I looked to see what else there was, and there's another book that just came out called Revenge, but I just started it, and it's about Harry and Meghan, and how it starts off her early life. She set goals to be famous and to be whatever, and it just talks about how she went about it, but I haven't gotten much further. The other book, and I think it's already been recommended, Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
Yeah. I like it.
Nice reading. And now I'm reading Her Last Affair.
What's that one?
It's about 3 people, but they're all older, like 60s, 50s, 60s. And I just started it, but I wanted to tell Roseanne that it's about older people. So if you give me a second, I'm just going to check. I made a note, and of course I forgot of, though I think there was one other book. If you give me a second, I'll find it.
Remarkably what?
Sorry?
I think that might have been
Bright Creatures.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Shelby Van Pelt.
Okay, of course I can't find it, but if I do, I'll come back to it. I thought I said, geez, I have so many emails. I hate it. I'm trying to get out of some.
Delete.
Books. Sorry?
Delete.
Oh, yeah, or yeah. Okay. Oh, here it is. Spare, revenge, remarkably bright creatures, and now the one I just said. Okay. Right. The one now is her last affair. Oh, it's by a good author. What's his name? I'll have to get the book. Hold on. You'll know him because he has some other bestsellers I never read.
Where'd you go?
I think she went to
get the
go
book.
find the book because she can't remember
Okay,
the title.
the book's upstairs. I'm not going, but it's, I think, somebody Cyril, Searle. I could look it up. Cyril. Or better still.
One Italian Summer? No, that's a
No,
woman.
the book, the name of the book. No, the name of the book is Her Last Affair. I'm just trying to find.
Oh, that's okay.
I'll give it to you in a second. It's by.
It's okay. I'll include it in the
John
email.
Searles.
John Searles.
Right.
Okay, and it's good so far?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the.
Is it a mystery, romance, historical? What's the story?
Okay, hold on. What are you asking?
What it's
Fiction?
about?
It's not historical. Fiction? Au courant, maybe?
Mhm.
A married woman.
Cruel husband.
Her been married many years, and her boyfriend comes back on Facebook, so they start talking. But before that, this other woman is a widow, and she's renting out a room. She doesn't see well, and it's to him. So apparently, there's one more that they all get tied in together.
Okay.
And it's easy reading. It's nice.
Okay. Okay. Noted. Her Last Affair by John Searles.
That's it for me.
Well, thanks, Carol. Dovie,
I read,
sorry.
Okay.
Do you mind,
No, I'm
Rona,
just
if
gonna say, I became involved with Ruth Ware. You know the author Ruth
Yes,
Ware?
the It Girl.
Oh my God. So I read the It Girl and I loved it. I think it's her latest one, but I understand she wrote a cabin number, or whatever, number
Yeah.
10 or something, which I couldn't get. I don't think the library has that particular book. They have other ones. But I really enjoyed it. It's a kind of book. I mean, it's not Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, that type of thing. But it is a very well written. You can't put it down. It's a mystery, and if you want something just to get your mind off whatever, I really recommend it. You'll read it. You won't put it down. I enjoyed it, and I'm just wondering if anybody else has read any of Ruth Ware's books.
I read the It Girl. It was very good. It was like a page turn. Yeah.
But I
And
understand.
the other thing
Yeah.
too is the other book that you were talking about. It's The Woman in Cabin 10.
Cabin 10, yes.
We do own it, so I can put your name on it.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know if it wasn't on the shelf, and then
No, it's out right now.
Maybe I did. I think I did put my name down on it, but I haven't gotten it yet. It must
I'll
be
double
very
check.
popular. Is it good? Is it good, The Woman in Cabin 10?
I haven't read it.
Oh, you didn't read it?
Nope. Nope. But I'm feeling a little bit, thrillery, like in the mood for that kind of book, and like police procedurals. I've been reading a few of those lately too. So I feel like maybe I'll pick up the It Girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a deep, but it's just very well written, and it keeps you on the edge, and it keeps you guessing. It's very, very good. I recommend it. And somebody recommended Horse. Have you heard of the book Horse?
Yeah,
And
Gwendolyn
I got
Brooks.
it. I looked at the first 2 pages or 3 pages. I said, I can't. I just can't. I don't know if I made a mistake by not reading it. I could still read it. Did you like it, Katie?
I haven't read it. I do like
Oh.
Gwendolyn Brooks quite a lot. I know that a lot of people like it's been being used as a book club book. It's really well
Right.
reviewed. I haven't read it yet.
I just couldn't get, I wasn't in the
It's on my
mood, like,
list.
going
That's
back
as
to
long as my
1800,
heart.
like it's, you know, the horse that dies, and then she comes back, she comes like in 100 years later, they look at his, I don't know, look at the DNA or whatever. It just, I wasn't in the, I was more in the mood for the It Girl, but I
Well,
was
this
just
is the
wondering
thing, right?
something.
Timing. Timing is
Mm.
big. Timing, right? Sometimes
That's
it's
right, exactly, exactly. It depends on what's going on in your life, eh? What you want to read. I find that. Does anybody else find that what's going on in your life dictates the kind of book you want to read?
Yes,
True or true?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And also what you've just finished reading. Like for a while there, I was reading all the World War II books, and then I got, I went into all the thrillers, and then I went into
Mhm.
like, well, Spare, the Royals. So yeah.
It depends, yeah. I
I
don't know if I would read about the Royals, because I find them frivolous. Like, I'm not crazy about the Royals. You know, I
Me
find them
neither.
a very
Yeah, but-
dysfunctional family, very dysfunctional. They don't live in the real world, and
right.
they're sleeping with this one and that one. And I don't understand how Harry and William could even look at Camilla after what happened
Oh,
with their
with
mother.
trouble. They had trouble. They had trouble.
I'm sure. I just can't understand it. And even their father's such a sleazebag, and when I don't like them, I don't want to sort of like, which
Okay.
is wrong, really. You should read about them. It's not going to hurt.
So here's the other thing. I'm just going to tell you something. Oh, geez, it went in out of my head. What did you say about them? Anyway, it'll come back to me.
About Camilla.
No. Two brothers. Oh, geez. Yes. Charles was not allowed to marry Camilla.
Yeah.
They didn't allow him.
Years and years and years ago. But that doesn't excuse what they did while he was married to somebody else. And she was married. Wasn't she married at the time?
Yeah,
also?
she has two children. To Parker
she
Bowles.
wasn't divorced. She was married when she was with right?
Yeah, they were both adulterers.
That's exactly. So I don't want to read about. I don't like them. I find them dysfunctional. I don't trust any of them. That's how I feel. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I don't know. I personally, it's not something that I've like. That's not a book that's on my reading list.
Right.
But it's again, it's sort of like you were saying earlier, Rona. Like, I mean, depending on the day, the time, where you're at, in your head, what you feel like. Oh, your husband.
Oh. Okay. He's on the phone.
Oh,
Okay.
Toby.
Yes,
Toby.
Toby.
I can't come in for.
Can you go to the other room?
I need to have to schedule the.
Oh God. Okay, go on without me. I'll be right back.
Okay, see you in a bit, Rona.
Okay. Yes, I am.
I also wanted to talk about Spare. I waited a long time to get the book, and I was very pleased. I wanted to know from his point of view what had happened, throughout his life, but also especially with Megan and why they had to leave and so on and so on. And I agree with what was said. Anytime I think that my family is dysfunctional, all you have to do is look at the Royals. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And some of the things that he talked about with his brother William, if he's going to be the king someday, I mean, I don't know how that's going to be, but maybe he'll grow up. I don't know. But
I think that if we heard any sort of personal stories about any of the kings and queens in the past, like I'm pretty sure that they've all.
I don't think that Harry lied. I found him to be very forthright.
It's not that. What I'm saying is that I think everyone has skeletons in their closet. Everyone has poor behaviors, and especially people who grew up with power and people who, like, that seems sort of par for the course. So I think that if we looked at, like, say, Queen Elizabeth, like, oh, did she make choices that were not, you know what I mean? Like, or
Yeah,
hard to think of.
she gave up caring for her children to be the queen. Like when
Mhm.
she came back from
Yeah.
one of her trips and she met
Yeah.
Charles, she gave him a handshake. What kind of mother does
Yeah,
a handshake?
Yeah.
So I just
But
want
you
to
know
say,
what? She made a commitment and she honored that commitment.
yeah, but she could have given a little more to her family.
Yeah, a little affection.
Yes,
Well, Toby-
especially when they would go to Balmoral and she was away from the limelight and away from everything. Maybe she did. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But I
there are
just wanna
all
say-
kinds of different personalities too, right? Like there's just,
But I
yeah,
just want to say Harry also talked about 2 previous girlfriends, long term, and they couldn't take the paparazzi.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't take that kind of life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nice girls, right, Toby? Those were
Yes.
the paragraphs,
Yes, agreed.
chapters.
Agreed.
Hmm. And he's still friends with them.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are any of you still friends with your ex-boyfriends?
Nope.
I am. I had one who was my driver this year in Florida and took me from here to there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And
Addie, what about you?
what, you talking about boyfriends?
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh.
let's.
Well, I didn't have any extracurricular affairs. No. I
No,
was clean white and a good citizen.
no, I mean pre getting married and all that. This is like, I think, like in terms of still being friends with exes, that's, I mean, I don't think there are any bad feelings with anyone, but I'm not really still in touch with anyone. I don't know how that reflects on someone's moral character necessarily, but Toby, you must have read a bunch of other things other than Spare. What else did you read?
I can't remember right now, to be honest with you. I can't remember, but that was the one that I waited for a long time, and
Yeah.
it took me a while to get through it and everything. Eventually, I had to just skip over some of the drama from the war and everything, from the Afghanistan, and I felt really bad that he had to leave his post because the press would get involved in everything, and so he had to keep coming home, and he wanted to do what he could for his country, and he was good at it.
Yeah.
He was good at it, But what Carol was talking about before is something that bothers me very, very much. How in order to get good press for Camilla, they had to give up Meghan and Harry with bad stuff, and they would feed stuff to the press. It was terrible, right, Carol?
Oh, Rona, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yes, correct. And I'll tell you what really bothered me, that they stripped him of his, what do you call it? Your pins or your whatever.
Medals?
The Navy, your medals. That was uncalled for.
Okay, sorry, Rona, should be at the you're on a desktop, right? So at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side.
Unmute, okay.
There,
Sorry
perfect.
about that.
No,
Katie,
I'm sorry, I
did you
muted
my
you.
name? Did you
I'm
shorten
glad
my
you
name?
did.
I did, just because
Thank you.
it goes on YouTube.
I know.
I feel like
Thank you.
first names are fine.
Yeah. I should have done it myself, but I appreciate it.
So I don't think that I was quite on the ball with necessarily all of the recordings, but yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But like I was saying, they stripped him of his medals because he got them from the Royal Army Navy, but he still did the time. Now that is mean. Mean.
Yeah.
Okay. And there Charles could have stepped in and said, you know what? He did the service and he should keep it. But he doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope we drop the monarchy. I don't want them.
I
I don't,
agree with you.
no, we don't need them.
It's a business, Carol.
Right,
they
so what do
have
we
to
need? We
answer.
don't need
They
it.
have to answer to the conglomeration that's running the royal
Yeah,
family.
exactly. So,
They tell them what to do, who,
right,
what, and it's all
right.
publicity, and it's all to keep them relevant. And they listen to their publicists to tell them what they have to do, and they follow. It's a
I
big
agree, but Barbados broke away, and there will be some other islands,
Right.
Caribbeans that will, and I think we should. Okay, we're not.
Well,
paying
there's
any
already
money.
been like talk in the news, right? About,
Yeah.
you know, there were all the different politicians, especially in
Yeah.
Quebec, who
Yeah,
didn't want to
I'm with
swear to
the-
the king. And
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with him. Yeah,
we'll see what comes of it,
Yeah.
I
But
guess.
yet some people love them. Some people
Oh,
love
yeah.
them.
Huge
They
monarchists.
talk about them like they're their best friends, and it's like,
Well, part of it,
oh
I
my
think,
God.
for a lot of people, again, it's that idea of continuity and tradition.
Mhm.
You know, like, it's like, of course we have a king, of course we have a queen. And, you know, like,
Yeah.
this is like, of course, of course. Like, this is, it's the history behind the links to history,
Mhm.
especially in like being, I personally, I know you'll all be shocked, don't really feel strongly one way or the other, but but I have good friends who are like at either end of the spectrum, and like one of the, you know, like sometimes I wonder if it's because, you know, we're a relatively new country, you know, so like this is, again, it's that link, that historical link, and the sense of being part of something bigger. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I don't know. To know myself.
To me, they're like a soap opera,
Yeah.
like Sarah and Andrew with the,
Oh my
he was
gosh.
busy with,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. They're an
it
expensive
is
soap
just, and,
opera.
and this poor, I feel sorry for what's her name that came in, Megan. I mean, here we are talking, she probably was so shocked at the dysfunction going on in that family. I give her credit for moving away, but then again, everybody has different opinions,
Yeah.
different ideas.
And this is it
But
too, is that any sort of, I mean, in a way, it's like the viewing any family, but, you know, on a stage, right? So like in every family, there's a scapegoat, there's the black
Yeah,
sheep, there's the one who gets blamed for everything. There's also like the one that no one likes or whatever, you know, like that, but no one likes them, but they love them. But that's partly it because we don't really have an audience, you know, like we don't have an audience to play out these archetypes
exactly. Yeah.
of whatever. I don't know. Addie, what have you been reading?
Sonoma Bros, pretty good.
Okay, Sonoma Rose. Tell us about it.
The story isn't all that different. It's the way it's portrayed that's good. And it's always a misery between a husband and a wife, a bad husband, a brutal husband, and on and on and on. And the story is elaborated on that. And it was rather good.
Okay. That's Jennifer Chiaverini, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. You'll know because you listen to the audiobook. Is it pronounced Chiaverini or Chiaverini? Did you notice?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't concentrating on that.
I have that sometimes. Do you guys have that when it's like it's a name you've never heard before? So you have it in your head, but then the first time that you have to actually say it out loud, you're like,
Yeah.
well, I've been reading a lot too. I read a book that Rona had recommended, which I'm going to bring up, called, well, maybe I'll wait until she comes back, make her talk about it too. I read a book that had been recommended, another book that had been recommended to me by another patron months ago, and it's an older book. You guys probably read it in, I don't know, it came out in the 70s. I read The Great Santini by Pat Conroy. So this book was, I knew nothing about it going in. It's the story of a family, mostly told from the perspective of the eldest son. He is 18, sort of in the book, and the Great Santini is his father, who's a Marine, who just comes back from a Mediterranean tour at sort of the beginning, near the beginning of the novel, and the whole family. So it's his dad who's a Marine, his mother who was like a Southern belle. His dad's from Chicago, so there's a lot of back and forth between Yankees and Southerners. And then there are 4 children in the family. And it's essentially, I found out about this afterwards, but afterwards I found out that it's kind of a thinly veiled like autobiographical story. Pat Conroy's dad was also a Marine. Also, he dealt with a lot of violence at home, but also there was love there, but there was resentment. There was there were, I think, 6 kids in Pat Conroy's family, 4 kids in this novel. And it was made into a movie also in the 70s. Yeah, 70s, 80s. Robert Duvall, I haven't seen the movie yet, but Robert Duvall plays the dad and Blythe Danner plays the mom. And it's about the family, and it was enjoyable. I found like there are quite a few racial epithets in it, which I find very challenging to get through. Like, it takes place in the South and the family is white, and like it's a reflection of the culture of what was and probably to a degree what still is. But I found that kind of hard to sort of overcome, like to read the story. But I enjoyed it. And Rona, now that you're back, I will say that Rona recommended to me The Lost Kings by Tyrell Johnson.
All right. Did you read it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we talked about it a little bit via email.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you liked it, actually. You weren't crazy
I
about it?
say 90% of it I did like.
Okay.
And it's
Good.
like a psychological thriller, I would say, but it's not like a thriller, but it's a psychological story for sure. And it centers around this woman who's, how would you describe it, Rona?
I'm trying to think to remember it. Just give me a little bit of, tell me quickly about the story, because I read it a while ago. And
So the main character is this woman who's very independent. I think she's in her 30s, I would say. She's very independent, but she has some psychological issues. Like, she has a therapist, and she does participate in some like self-destructive behavior. She's her mother dies in a car accident when she's really young. And so it kind of flips back and forth between.
Oh yeah, it's all come back to me. Yeah, and it's like definitely psychological. There's and about mental issues,
It's like, the reason why I hesitate to use the word thriller is just because you're not really on the edge of your seat. But I did find it page turning, and I would say 90% of the book I really enjoyed.
I don't think
I didn't like the ending, but
the professor, I won't give it away, but you weren't happy about that. He was.
This is it, is that like the last sort of bit of the book, then like different things are revealed, and it wasn't necessarily the things that were revealed that bothered me. It was like the ways that the author went about it, because I thought the author, this is like white guy, he did a really good job writing a woman for really most of the book. What else did I want to talk about? I mentioned police procedurals earlier. So I stumbled across this book series by an Irish author called Adrian McGinty. And all of the titles of the books are taken from Tom Waits songs. And I love Tom Waits. My eldest daughter, her name is taken from a Tom Waits song. So I was like, I'll give that a try. And it's a series that follows a detective called Sean Duffy in Northern Ireland in the 80s, so during the Troubles. And the first book is called Cold, Cold Ground. And it was very enjoyable. It wasn't like, again, it wasn't completely mind-blowing in any respect, and they'd had its own little, I always take some issue with the books that I read about whether it's like the way that the women are written, or the way that certain sort of political happenings are portrayed, or whatever. But I enjoyed it, and I'm going to read more in the series for sure.
That sounds good.
Yeah. What else have we got? What else have we been reading? I know that I personally, I think we're probably all in the same boat. Like, I know that I've read more than 3 books in the last month and a half.
Why do we read them and forget them so quickly? This is what I don't understand. That's sad, I find, I
Well,
don't know.
It's a funny thing, because sometimes, so like I do book clubs, right? I have, well, up until recently I had 3, and this one is like part-time, right?
Wow.
And so I would read these books, and I'd oftentimes then be rereading them and then discussing those. And I find like I enjoy traditional book clubs more than I thought that I would, because then I have a really bad memory. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again. But when I do that, and then when we have to think more critically about the things that we've been reading instead of just sort of going along for the ride, I think, of course, things sink in a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It was one of the books that I did for a book club maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, was the book All Adults Here by Emma Strobe. And the first time I read it, I read it. And I just found it, it's a nice story. It's pretty light. It has interesting character development, but it wasn't a deep book. And I was kind of surprised that we had a book club kit for it. But I thought this will be a nice sort of, almost like a palate cleanser. It's good. It's family story. It's about kind of the matriarch of a family, her 3 adult children, and her grandchild. Sort of everyone has moments where they talk about things from their perspectives. And I like Emma Strobe's writing. But I thought it was pretty light. And then I reread it. And then I was discussing it with people, and there were a couple of lines in it that just seemed to really resonate.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. Like, it's sort of like what we were saying before about timing, and about like sometimes you're not in the mood for something,
Right.
and sometimes it depends on where you're at. But this is kind of similar to like our last meeting was the romance edition, Read What You Want. And I'd reread Gut Symmetries. And every time I read Gut Symmetries, which I have read it, well, like I used to read it every year. And then
Oh, wow.
I would, and now like this last time, it was the first time that I had read it in probably 7 years, 8 years, maybe longer. But it always gives me something else. Like it always, or like I said, I have a terrible memory. Maybe it gives me the same things and I just don't remember. But that's something that I find really interesting about rereading books, and then also about discussing the books with other people, because usually someone will come out with a perspective that didn't occur to you, right? Like this is, even in Rona's and my brief emails about the Lost Kings, she saw things that I didn't. And I think I saw a few things that you didn't, or that we get to sort of share with each other, like sort of, hints of like our life experiences as well, and the ways that we see the world through the ways that we perceive these books.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting thing, that somebody could read a book and somebody else can read a book and you both get different things out of it. That's really amazing, I find. That's one of the things that why reading is so wonderful. You get different perspectives. It's like really amazing.
And discussion.
And the discussions, and that's, to me, that's what shows an author's, the brilliance of the writing is like, that you're able to see different sides of it. I think it There are some book, I sort of like to find books as like frivolous, and some like, like goes all the way up to brilliant, but I don't know if you should be doing that, or should you be categorizing books as frivolous, brilliant, not so good? Like, should you be, or just
Why not?
taking it at its face value?
I mean, the thing is why not? It's like you can't please everyone. And also there's no reason why you should be pleased by everything. Like,
Mhm.
I think that it's the same as like if you read like at book clubs that we've had before here, right? We read a book and it's like, oh, I loved this book, and there will be someone who hated it. And it's like, oh, and then like let's talk about that because it's interesting to find that out. As long as, and I feel like that's true with many, many things, is that too often we don't actually take the time to listen to why someone doesn't like something or does like something, and instead we just stay stuck in our perspective without sort of opening it up to what else is out there. Now, just because just because I really liked Spare, and Carol hated it. I know I'm using an example. And then if that doesn't necessarily mean that then through our discussion I'll be like, yeah, that was a really terrible book. You've convinced me. I can still like the book and appreciate Carol's issues with it. Like this is, I feel like if we could just all get along, if people could just get along as well as we do in our book clubs.
If anybody was listening to us right now, they think we were talking about politics, especially in the States,
Oh,
There
for
you
sure.
go,
Well, everywhere really. I mean, and this is it, is that, I mean, talking about political discourse, it used to
Yeah.
be that you could actually have political discourse without it being like, oh yeah, maybe I voted for Bob and you voted for Sam,
Right.
but
But I could understand why you voted for Bob. Now there's none of that,
well,
you're an idiot.
it's become really, really like almost isolated. It's like everyone's going into camps instead of
Mhm.
trying to really like like again, we want to try and understand the other perspectives. Although there's a lot more of the I want to convert you, right? In
Right.
political sort of conversations and political discourse.
But
And
that doesn't
it's
happen
very
with
difficult
books.
when it's
Like,
brought into the homes, and people are fighting, like
Yeah.
dinners and stuff like that, and there's two camps, and
Yeah.
It's a good thing it doesn't happen with books. I like this book and you don't, you're stupid. Why do like it could happen with books too. So why doesn't it happen with books?
Yeah.
that's because that's objective.
It's not so.
It's subjective when
it
it's
doesn't
closer
affect
to
you
home.
personally.
Yeah.
That's true. It's not. It's subjective and not subjective. That's true.
But I think this is the problem, is that we forget that everything is subjective. Like,
Should be.
or well, like the vast majority of things are subjective. It's like, it's my opinion. This is my, then the next step is talking about like, I mean, we won't get into it too much. We'll end up we'll spiral downwards. But let's just imagine for a moment sitting around your family dinner table and having a row over, whether or not the newest Louise Penny book was worth
Right,
your
exactly. Exactly. It's so ridiculous.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a very good example of a bestseller, and everybody loves Louise Penny. So I finally got her latest book. I just couldn't get into it. So maybe it's
Is that The Madness of Crowds or A World of Curiosities?
no, later. The one.
I thought those were the most recent ones.
Is that the one with Clinton?
Yes.
She wrote
Oh,
with
State of
Clinton?
Terror. Yeah, that one
That's
came
it.
out a couple of years ago.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm behind
I
the
read that. That's
I
one
couldn't
of the
get
ones
into it, and my girlfriend says, "Oh, it's so fantastic! You should get it." So I reserved it again, but like Rona said, I'm not ready for it right now. I'm just having fun with
Yeah.
this other, and I just want light. Same thing with my TV shows. There's new things coming up, but I don't want anything serious and heavy.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like we've already talked about it. It's like those feelings that you like. It's like, I'm not ready for
Mhm.
the heaviness. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
I gotta go. Oh,
But you know what I find? I find I almost have to make excuses. Like if I like a book that's like just a like not like it's just like a frivolous or whatever light kind of book, like does that make me a bad reader or does that make me not as intelligent as I should be? If I
What's a
like a
bad, what does that
silly
mean, bad reader? And who's judging you and your intelligence?
Yeah.
I'm past
like
that.
no, yes, because like books like Pretty Little Liars or books that are frivolous, people do seem to, you know, if I'm a reader, like people will say I read, and they don't read those books. Like I don't make it. It could be all in my mind, but
No,
are you a frivolous reader?
it's just a
If
matter
you
of taste. It's just a matter of taste, Rona. Just like Katie said, she's not interested in reading about the royals. Like me, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
It's
think
also a matter of like snobbishness. Like there are some
Yeah,
people who
that's
are
a good
just
word. You're right, Katie. Like,
snobbish.
you know, should I admit to somebody who's like an avid, fabulous reader reading all these great novels and everything? Should I admit that I like Pretty Little Liars? I mean, I don't know, you know.
I mean, I don't see why not, Rona. You could then like if they gave you any guff, then it's like
Yeah.
well, I mean, if they give you any guff, then you know that they're not really worth your time. But the other thing too
Right.
is just because you enjoy things like Pretty Little Liars or anything like that doesn't necessarily mean that you are not capable of understanding like great literature and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you read Wuthering Heights for fun on purpose, right?
wow.
Like not because it was
Mhm.
assigned to you in school, not
Mhm.
because you were
Right.
trained then to like read
Right.
like more literary books. It's no, you should. The
But
only
I
thing I think
think
that you
there
should
is
take away
some
from someone
snobbish.
being snobbish and
I
judging you
think
is
there
that they're
is some
snobbish and judgy.
snobbishness.
I gotta go.
I think there is some snobbishness.
Bye, Addie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have to leave in about 10 minutes. So I just want to tell Rona something, and all of you. I belong to another book club, and there was a book we read, all of us, and we thought it was good. And then came, like, I think she's a snob, and she talks, and
Well,
she said it wasn't well written. I thought, what? I thought I loved it. Okay. And I thought, you're a snob because she always has something to say about the books, you know. And when it's her
That's
turn
what
to
I
come up,
mean.
I hope it's ready. I have to leave. So sometime because it always coincides with when I have to go to my painting class. So I try not to hear what she has to say because she really bothers me. So I
That's
just
it.
want
I
to
find that that's a problem. I mean, I don't care. I'll read what I want, and I don't care what others say. But there is a certain, you know, like, what do you read? What I don't know. Maybe it's just me, my insecurities or something.
Well, you
Well,
want to laugh? Sorry, Mairead started between the covers romance books. We talked about this, about harlequins, but these weren't really harlequin. And you know what? I fell in love because it was easy reading, and we all joked. I don't know why Roseanne's not there today, but you know, some had explicit sex scenes, which I like to say, never enough for me. And some are
Memories,
written
right? Memories.
sorry,
Memories.
yeah.
Memories, yeah.
And
recent memories.
yeah, and some books they just
I don't know. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
yeah, and they just go, you know, but there's stories, and there was one, you know, a lot of flirting going on, and he was a pirate, and of course he ended up being an heir to some big whatever, and it was just again easy reading, fun, you know. So I just want to say, yeah, like I don't think I'd ever would have picked up that genre, and there's a lot of
What's graphic novels?
Sorry about
graphic
that,
novels
guys.
they're all like I can't say comics, but they're all pictures. And
Oh,
the first one we had was Mouse, Maus,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
controversial book. So I found that interesting. Apparently there's a second one, but the one we were just going to do tonight is Funhouse, and the pictures are so intricate. Each special block is like really interesting, but the story just kept. It's like it was so bleak. Finally, I said to myself, phew, I can't. So I was at the library and Adam was at the reference desk. So I said, I just couldn't get through it. He said, well, graphic novels are serious. They're not funny. Well,
Some
I didn't
are.
know that. Oh, good. Thank you. There are some that are, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, then like tonight, I'm just going to say, I'll hear what the others say. Okay. But I'd rather read a book for enjoyment, and so I'll hear what it's a big group tonight. There's
Well,
like
this is
10
like
people.
Mouse isn't, like your first book was Mouse, which is it's the Holocaust. Like,
Right.
Right.
it's not a bundle of laughs.
But he didn't go into detail about it. He talked about his father and how what they were doing. So it wasn't as heavy. Maybe the second edition is, which I will pick up when I'm ready, Rona, when I feel like it. So, I was introduced to two genres, which I would never have thought of.
Yeah. Book clubs. Your local library. Amazing
Mhm.
resources.
Yeah.
So I'm ahead of all of you in reading the with the Penguins and Veronica.
Well,
I'm
we're not going to
enjoying-
do that
I'm
one
en-
next month. Well, maybe.
I'm enjoying it, and
Yeah.
it's the first book that I'm reading on my iPhone or iPad,
Okay.
and I'm getting used to it because I always wanted to have something in my hand,
Yes.
but now because I wait for Adapt Day a lot, so I read it while I'm waiting, and
It's
and
pretty
I'm
nice to always have a book with you, like as long as you have your phone with you, to always have a book with you.
that's right.
I know, again, some people feel really strongly about like physical copies of books versus digital or the opposite.
Yeah.
I take whatever I can get. And one of the lovely things is that like always being able to have at least one book on my phone. I feel like if I finish reading a physical copy, I've got a backup. Always have a
That's
backup.
right. That's right. Well, I'm learning to appreciate it.
Oh, good. Good. And it's nice too that you can enlarge the type. You can make the type whatever size you want. And also,
I don't know how to do that. You'll have to teach me.
I will happily show you. And also with the light, well, that's something that I really like about reading digitally is having a husband sometimes waking up in the middle of the night or waking up really early or wanting to go to bed later. I can read without having a light on.
Yeah.
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 Handy.
All righty. I must leave.
Yeah, I think with Carol and Toby having to go, then we'll stop the recording soon. I will say goodbye to all of you and until next month. And